Congratulations, 365ers. We have now made it 4 weeks into the challenge. How's it going? I would love to hear your comments and thoughts as you go through these readings. You can always do that in the comments below or when we post the audio recordings on the Facebook page. If you are reading along and on schedule, you know that we just started reading the response from Job's fourth friend. So these 3 men stopped answering Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. But Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite, Elihu? Yeah, this guy has apparently been there the whole time and has been listening to what the other 3 have been doing in this cycle that Job has been keeping up with his 3 friends for the last 30 chapters and has waited till now to give his word. To be fair, God shows up in a giant storm when he finishes talking, so no matter how great his monologue was, it would be tough not to be upstaged. But I want to step back and look at some of what Job has been saying in his monologues this week. Lament. Job has been crying out to God for understanding, crying out for justice, crying out to God for mercy. Lament. Job looks back at better times, and the loss he's feeling is palpable, painful. You can't help but feel for Job as he cries out about all of these injustices, about his unfair treatment, about his suffering. How do you feel as you read this? Last week I talked about his friends' reaction, how they tried to offer him answers, how they tried to offer him advice, how they tried to fix him, how they tried to defend God. And I get the sense that we often feel the need to do the same thing. But there is pain in the world. There is suffering. There is injustice. So what are we, God's people, called to do about it? What if Job is on the right track? In the next few days, you will finally get to read God's response to all of Job's suffering, all of Job's questions, all of Job's accusations. He doesn't give Job any easy answers. You could pretty much sum up his answer as, I'm God, you're not, and you can't possibly wrap your head around my wisdom and my understanding. I think of it like this. It would be like if one of us were to try to download the entire internet and save it on a floppy disk. Wait, do you guys even know what a floppy disk is? To be honest, you'd have no idea how hard it is to find one of these things now. So in Job, we learn that we won't get all of the answers that we want. But does that mean we just should put a sock in it? You know, when you look at all of our kids' Bibles and the songs that we use in worship, you might think so. We love to sing about our joy. We love to sing about God's goodness, about our faith, about our confidence in God. We love to tell the stories where God does amazing things for God's people. These stories are so important because they teach us about God's love, God's mercy, God's justice, God's plan to redeem us and the whole creation. But what about the other times? What about the times when bad things happen and it feels like God is silent? Is it okay to cry out? Is it okay to be upset? To beg God to stop being silent? To take action? To ask God to keep God's promises? I think one of the reasons we have the book of Job is to answer that question. Yes, in all of the things you will read over the next few days, Job is never condemned for his lamenting. And in the rest of the Bible, huge chunks of the Psalms are lament. There's even a book called the Lamentations. And don't worry, we won't be reading that one till August. If you come to a point where you can identify with Job, it can become difficult to pray, especially if you've only heard the happy songs, the happy psalms. But God has given us words of lament, words for those times when our own words get stuck in our throats. And you've just read some of Job's. The Bible provides a whole breadth of examples for us as we bare our hearts to God. As we read Job, I've been reading another book called Rejoicing in Lament. I'll put a link to where you can find the book in the description below. And I've really appreciated what he has to say about the topic of lament, especially as we've been reading Job together. He writes, "By the Spirit we bring our anger, our fear, and our grief before God in order that we might be seen by God. And being seen by God leads to transformation." That's what we see in Job. He doesn't get the answers that he cried out for. But he does emerge from this transformed, with a richer sense of who God is and God's wisdom. And we'll be seeing this again next week. On Monday, we will begin reading the book of Exodus. Exodus will pick up about 400 years after Genesis left off. Jacob's family, now called the Hebrews, the Israelites, have spent centuries under harsh oppression as slaves to Egypt's pharaohs. They have spent centuries in lament, crying out to God. Lament that has not gone unheard. God has heard the cries of his people. Get ready. So wherever you are in your story this week, lay your heart before God. Maybe it will be with singing and dancing. Maybe it will be with tears and lament. Don't buy into the lie that you have to pretend. There is no pretending with God. Trust God with your joy, with your fear, with anger, pain, and uncertainty. God will hear. Grace and peace.